Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire supported by Glenlivet Books. December the 16th is the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Bangladesh, and to mark that landmark event, my guest today is one of the heroes of that war. As a young 20-year-old lieutenant in Pakistan's elite 14th Para-Brigade, he decided to cross the border to India carrying with him important and critical battle information details, and they were, believe it or not, tucked into his boots. That information was so vital that it played a major role when war began between the two countries a few months later. Joining me now to relive and recount that incredible episode is Colonel Quazi Sajjad Ali Zahir. Colonel Sajjad, let's start with August 1971, when you were a young 20-year-old lieutenant in Pakistan's elite 14th Para-Brigade stationed in Sialkot. You decided to cross the border and come over to the Indian side. I'll come to details in a moment's time, but tell me, why did you decide to desert the Pakistan army and come to the Indian side?
In 23 years, Jinnah's Pakistan became a Qabristan for us. Standing on the edge of the Qabristan, age didn't matter. I came to know they have killed my colleagues. In Operation Searchlight, they have killed brutally 48 army officers. We are very few in numbers. They are committing rape, murder, arson. Lakhs and lakhs of people fleeing to India. I couldn't take it anymore.
Was this a decision that you had planned a long time in advance, or was it fairly spontaneously taken?
Well, before the genocide started, I had a sense of deprivation in Pakistan army. But that deprivation boiled down 100 times after I came to know the genocide. Genocide drove me for my decision.
Now, I gather you took what's called the Shakkargarh route towards Jammu. There was firing from the Pakistan side, and I'm told there was retaliatory fire by the BSF on the Indian side. How difficult, how dangerous was that crossing?
Well, it was very dangerous. It was not even evening, but I had studied the map very well. This map reading really helped me in life. I had jumped into a gorge which was quite deep, and there was a small hole, and I put myself into the hole. I was safe. And when firing starts, no soldiers come forward. So I was at peace. And at dead of the night, I came out and start walking. I did not go to the BSF camp because Pakistani Rangers Subedar once told me they have very good relationship between BSF and the Rangers, especially Jhelum Rangers. So I thought I may be traded or I may be sold. So I walked inside. In fact, Central Reserve Police apprehended me, which was quite inside.
But you had to, at one point, jump into a gorge and hide in a hole because firing was happening above you.
It was not very intense firing, but warning shots all around.
Were you at that moment scared? Were you worried? After all, you were only 20 years old.
I was always scared. I'll be frank with you. But I was an arrogant, determined boy. My mother always told me that.
So you knew you were taking your life in your hands, but you were also determined that you were going to leave Pakistan and you were going to make it to India.
I had only one life to lead. I wanted to give it to my country and my people.
Now, as you said, you deliberately avoided the Border Security Force camp because you were scared that relations between the Jhelum Rangers and the BSF were so good, you might have been traded. So you went instead and allowed yourself to be captured by the CRPF.
Yes.
How did you do that? How did you know where they were?
Again, the map and the discussions. I was a very quiet boy. I used to hear everything, talk very less. I was very good in map reading and night navigation. The map helped me tremendously. As you said rightly, information are all from the map, basically in the discussions. And later on, in Samba, in Pathankot, and in Safdarjung enclave where I was kept. These informations I did not know at that time would be so valuable to
I'll
Indian
come to
forces.
Pathankot later on. But first, you knew where the CRPF camp was because you'd seen it on a map.
Yes, but then I was not very sure about their patrolling activities. I knew about BSF, but I didn't have much information about CRPF.
So you just walked in the general direction of what you thought was the CRPF camp?
No, I wanted to actually go and hit Samba Highway. With 20 rupees in my pocket, I thought I will hitchhike back some people and go to Pathankot to catch a train to Delhi. And
so your intention was to go towards the Samba Highway, and you had only 20 rupees in your pocket?
Finished.
So when you got to the highway, what happened? Did the CRPF patrols catch you?
I could not go up to the highway. There were the camp was just a small housing-like thing. In fact, what I say that they are all in civil dress, and it was night, and I was very thirsty. So I went there, and there was a gate, and I just knocked the gate and said, "Mai, pani pilao."
And they gave you pani?
No, they caught me.
Did they know that you were a Pakistani soldier?
No, they didn't know. They caught me and then say, "Who are you?" And I could speak Hindi, Urdu, and they could understand Urdu. So they caught me actually, and then they.
Did they think you were a spy?
They were very confused. But then I heard the wireless communication. "Saab ji, ek aadmi ko pakad liya, pata nahi jasoos hai ki nahi." They were discussing like that. I could hear it. The wireless.
What were you wearing? Were you in military fatigues or were you in civilian clothes?
One shirt, one pant, but it's a cloth boot. You know why cloth boot? I could put more documents inside, but I didn't give them any documents there.
So when they caught you, what did they do?
Well, they are very aggressive. I have no complaint about that.
Physically aggressive?
Yes. But
so
then,
you were beaten?
Pushed around, abused and all that. But then didn't threaten to kill me. That's all. But again, I was watching that they won't probably do anything to me because they are not BSF. Central Reserve Police have got more communication among themselves. Then again the wireless thing came, and then I found a officer of the rank of captain of CRP. He put me into the vehicle, and he took me, but on the way I told him that I am very sick. I want some medical treatment.
Were you sick or was that a lie?
No, I was hurt. At night, walking, falling down, almost crushed my knee. My arm was badly hit. So he took me down to the Samba hospital. And I was given some treatment. Then I was driven from there to one office, and that was a civilian office, it looked like. This gentleman sitting was an elderly person. He looked like an army officer to me, never identified. He asked me that, "Do you want some food?" I said yes.
How long was it since you had last eaten?
Maybe more than 1 day or 1.5 days.
So this was the first meal you got?
He brought in some tea, told his, but I could understand he's a military man. Then he has a jar for the biscuits, he gave it to me. And then I asked him, "Saab, do you have some pakoda?" I love pakoda.
And he gave you pakoda?
Yes.
So by this point, the CRPF had handed you over to a military person.
But that was an intelligence officer, the Samba intelligence chief.
And when did you reveal that you were in fact a lieutenant in the Pakistan Army, that you had with you in your shoes valuable battle information of the Pakistan Army? When did you reveal that?
In CRPs, I only said I'm a Pakistani officer, and I have to talk to some senior officer.
And that's when they took you to the intelligence officer?
No. They brought me near the cantonment, now this officer, but I was not taken inside the cantonment. So this officer, he did a great job for me. The day I received the honor, he rang me up from Pune. Major Gautam Sen.
Yeah, but that is now. At that point, what happened?
He gave me the food. He seemed to be a very intelligent man, sharp.
How long were you with him?
One day, less 6-7 hours.
After that, I believe you were taken to Pathankot, is that
No,
right?
taken to Samba cantonment.
And then what happened after that?
There one day.
And then?
Then I had some medical treatment also there.
When did you get to Pathankot? Because I believe it was at Pathankot when senior officers questioned you that you revealed the critical battle information that you had, which was in your boots.
I went to Pathankot, they knew quite a lot about me because I thought that officer, I didn't know his name, that officer has already passed on the message. So some intelligence people came, they asked me, then some officer, everybody was in civil dress. 2 days and 2 nights.
In Pathankot?
Pathankot.
And were you questioned regularly right through the day and night?
Day and night.
Did they let you sleep?
No.
So they kept you awake?
Yeah.
Were you treated well or were you physically roughed up?
No, I was not beaten there.
So you were treated well?
I was given food. They are very careful, asking questions, quite professional, and I think they are doing their job well.
Was it very rigorous questioning?
Very.
And did they believe you or were they doubtful of you?
Doubtful.
Why?
You are such a young boy. You have so less service. First, how do you remember so much? I said, sir, I got 99 out of 100 in chemistry in my intermediate degree because I memorized 198 pages book fully.
I'm curious about this. You were a 20-year-old lieutenant, yet you had with you critical battle information, and you had also, I believe, memorized a lot of things. Give me an idea of the sort of details this information in your boots contained.
Okay. In Samba, in Pathankot, and in Delhi, they are very interested about the lines of communication. What you know when you traveled, road conditions. Now I know. At that time, I probably didn't know so much. Tanks maneuverability, heavy weapons maneuverability, tracks, those are very important. The relationship between Rangers and Army. Local people support. What are the local people doing? Are they all fed up and not fed up? These are all I understand now. That will they, when Indians go in, if they go. But Shakargarh as a whole was a defensive mechanism, which some of them didn't believe me, I think.
What sort of details did you give about defensive mechanism?
Okay. First of all, the maps say everything. It's not difficult at all. If you have a military map, if you could do, I could see map as if it's happening. So, like the road conditions, track conditions, those things are there. Then, where do you think they were asking me the gun positions would be? I said, these are the places where, because they are training and they are always telling that we have to fight a jung. And they are preparing for the war, which did not know that from Operation Sajjad, another thing was that they would prepare for a war. They would go for a war with India. Another thing, they are having many alternate positions. Gun positions being dug up, and then another position. Then they are discussing in the vehicle, officers, that here would be the petrol, oil and lubricant center. I could write it down. Here will be anti-tank ditches. Here there will be ammunition dumps, alternate command posts. Army is not a very difficult thing actually, that I understood. And that's what really happened later on in the war, which I'll explain later on.
Tell me something, all this information, all these details were hidden inside your boots?
Yeah. Some memorized, but map grid references, I used to put small things and on a polythene layer by layer inside 2 kapra ka boot.
How did you ensure that the pressure of your foot didn't erase the details that were in these documents?
Very thin polythene.
So you covered the papers in polythene before you put your foot into the shoe?
Because to make it more space, the sole above it, the protection that I took off, that polythene was the protection.
So you had to specially prepare your boots for this. And a lot of the other information you had memorized. This is where your very good memory comes into play. Which means that whenever you'd seen gun positions or places where oil and petrol was to be stored or other lubricants, you had memorized the location.
Because they were doing reconnaissance every day in Sialkot, Shakargarh, all these areas, regular patrolling. And there are a lot of foot patrols we had to do. But in none of the foot patrols I was ever accompanied by a Bengali officer or a Bengali soldier.
That gave you the opportunity to see and remember. And you used it very carefully. You're saying yes?
Yes, because I had to give it to that country.
Tell me something.
They are saving my people, I know about that.
When you gave all this information over 2 days of rigorous questioning to army intelligence in Pathankot, what was their response? Did they believe what you were saying, or were they skeptical and doubtful?
Sir, in intelligence, the people who are interrogating, they are supposed to be faceless. They show no emotion.
So you had no idea what their reaction and response was?
But I was very confident that I'm telling the truth. And this what happened later on in Shakargarh. Much more senior officers came to see me. Big maps were laid out on the
When you say much more senior officers, how senior were they?
They're elderly. I suspect one of them was General K.K. Singh. I suspect.
General K.K. Singh was the
Northern Commander later on.
Later on. But at that time, in fact, he was Director General Military Operations. So the DMO came to see you himself?
I think so. He asked me a number of questions, but it seemed he was fatherly to me.
So obviously, the information you gave in Pathankot was taken very seriously. They took you to Shakargarh. Senior officers, including the then DMO, General K.K. Singh, came personally to meet you and hear from you what you had to say.
That's what I thought, because nobody told their name. But I was ordered not to leave their premises, their guards, but in civil dress.
How long were you kept there?
8 days.
8 days?
8 days and nights.
How long did General K.K. Singh spend with you?
I think he came 1 day, 2 days.
2 days? Yeah. And when you finished telling him everything, do you remember what he said?
In fact, sir, he was not asking much questions. Other people are asking.
So he just listened?
He listened. But he was looking straight into my eyes. I think he can read minds, I thought.
So all the time that you were answering questions that others were asking, he was looking straight at your eyes.
Yeah.
He was probably trying to work out, is this young man telling the truth, or is he putting on an act?
You're right, sir. Absolutely.
Did he ever speak to you? Did he say anything to you?
He asked me some emotional questions, which really made me a little weak.
What did he ask?
About my mother and father and my family. That what will happen to them, you think, if they know that you are doing this? I said, I believe in Almighty God. My God will protect them. And my father is a soldier of Second World War. He will know what to do. He will know how to protect the family.
This touched you?
Yes. First time I remembered my parents.
Tell me something, after these 8 days in Shakargarh, after meeting General K.K. Singh, I believe you were then taken to the eastern border.
Yes, here something happened, sir. I think the verification also, what Colonel Osmani told me, also they checked up in Mujibnagar. And Colonel Osmani didn't know me.
Colonel Osmani being the head of the Mukti Bahini at the time.
Yeah,
so they double-checked your verification with Colonel Osmani just in case they had missed something.
He told me about this. His deputy was Chief of Staff Colonel Rab. He was in my interview board when I was selected for the army.
So he could vouchsafe that you were a genuine person, not a spy?
He said, I know him. He's a dear friend of my nephew. He is a very good officer, and he got the highest mark in my interview board. Then Osmani said, can he be a man of character? He said, yes. Osmani Saab told me later on this
So
thing.
Osmani Saab gave verification that helped the Indian army believe that you were credible and real.
Yes, sir. And Osmani sir later told me that I talked to their highest level and told them that please get my boy back to me. I want him.
When you say highest level, do you think Colonel Osmani spoke to General Manekshaw?
Yes, sir.
Really? So General Manekshaw
They are
was aware
friends.
of everything,
They are all
not
friends.
just from his DMO, General K.K. Singh, but also from Colonel Osmani.
Yes. General Arora told me this thing, and General Jakov told me the same thing.
General Arora, who was Army Commander, Eastern Command
he
at
also
the time.
knew. He also
And
knew.
General Jacob told you as well.
Same thing.
So tell me, you were then sent to the eastern border,
No,
where,
sir. I was sent to Mujibnagar.
to Mujibnagar, where I believe you were involved in training Mukti Bahini.
Little bit before that, sir, Colonel Osmani, actually, I get very emotional about my parents, actually. Sorry about that. They had suffered too much in 71, and my mother died after that. Anyway, so Osmani sir told me that, he told me I talked to Sam and told that get my boy back to me, and he embraced me. And he told me something, that did you help them to the best of your ability? I said, yes. He said, you have done a very good job. They are our best friend. We must help them.
Tell me something. Did your parents suffer as a result of the fact their son had deserted the Pakistan army, crossed over to India, and then shared critical battle information with the Indians? Did
Yes.
your parents suffer as a result?
Yeah. First of all, my father took my brother's hand and told, let's go and join Mukti Bahini. He was 55 years plus. And he says, I didn't deposit my training. He was a sergeant of British Army when he retired. And he put my mother and two sisters into a deep village. And then they stayed over there and they couldn't go out of the home. We had a small house in Dhaka that was burnt. That's a proof. After I deserted, they burned that house.
So they burnt the house because you deserted. This
That's
was revenge.
Yeah. Number two,
Did your parents suffer as well, physically, personally?
physically, my father joined, and my mother and two sisters, some way the village elder, who was not Pakistani collaborator, he advised my mother that please, you shouldn't stay here anymore, because we heard that army will be coming to this village for checking. I don't know why.
So he protected your mother by suggesting she should move away.
And he put her into a boat, and then my mother crossed over the border, stayed in a refugee camp,
On the Indian side.
Indian side, and she became very sick.
So your mother was on the Indian side after a while, and your father had joined the Mukti Bahini.
So
Now, when you were sent to the eastern border after Colonel Osmani welcomed you, did you train the Mukti Bahini yourself?
yes, sir. I was told by Colonel Osmani that you are well-trained officer and you must go to Sylhet, difficult terrain, and I was sent to a camp. Here I started in one phase Mukti Bahini boys training, but the main training were given by Indian Army, but more acclimatization, specific training, and also operation. Two things I started doing.
How many months did you do this for?
By the time I came to the sector, it was September. So, and first week of October, an order came that they are going to raise a first artillery battery. So I was supposed to train the battery, and Indians will give some help in the camp also. So we trained the battery only for 12 days. And then we went for the operation with 6 guns.
And then this was one of the first batteries
Second-
to cross back into Bangladesh.
The first battery was in Kumilla sector, Sylhet sector.
So you were part of the vanguard of Bangladeshi soldiers, part of the Mukti Bahini that actually entered back into Bangladesh to liberate your own country.
Yes, sir. And then I was having my own battery operation, Mukti Bahini operation, and Indian Army used to call me regularly for discussing some operations, and also I used to work as their forward observer.
Now, over the next 50 years, after the creation of Bangladesh, you have dedicated yourself to finding recognition for Indian soldiers who were involved in the liberation of Bangladesh. You've organized honors for them, you've organized celebrations for them. This has been a sort of mission for you, hasn't it, for 50 years?
Sir, a good nation, a respectable nation is a grateful nation. First of all, Honorable Sheikh Hasina, after she came back to power, after all the tragedies we had and pro-Pakistani governments in position, all that you know, she decided to honor friends of Bangladesh. We have honored 339 friends of Bangladesh. I was put in charge of writing the citations. We have honored 218 Indian citizens, from one country only. That had finished 9 phases. And then I begged her that historical injustice will be made if you do not honor the martyred soldiers of Indian Army, because you are honoring the Mukti Bahini martyrs, and they are also Mukti soldiers. They fought for independence of my country.
So the idea to honor
was mine.
Soldiers who had died from the Indian side, that idea came from you?
Yes, in her house, on the second day of Boishak, for a lunch she invites some writers and authors. I write books and I've written 60 books till now. So she asked for some suggestions, I gave the suggestions. She said, give it to me in writing. And I was little blunt, I said, historical injustice, we don't say in front of PM. And Bangabandhu would have done it, but he was killed. Your responsibility, Honorable
So
Prime
you
Minister.
encouraged her to do it?
And she said that you will be in charge. So,
and you very cleverly said her father would have done it.
Sure, sir, he would have done it.
As a way of making sure his daughter did it as well.
Yes. And I said, you are completing the unfinished work of Bangabandhu.
Now, earlier this year, the Indian government, somewhat belatedly, recognized your incredible services and awarded you the Padma Shri. What did the Padma Shri mean to you?
As an individual, it means a great thing for me, being honored by the people and the government who helped us in 71 so much. I'm very gratified. I don't know whether I deserve it or not, but this will really encourage me to work harder on upholding the spirit of 71 in both the countries.
The surprising thing is it took the Indian government 50 years to give you this honor and recognition. 50 years is a very long time. Did it upset you that India waited 50 years to do this?
Not at all, sir. What India did for our suffering people of Bangladesh, this is incredible help. Compared to this, there can be no complaint.
My last question, Col Sajjad. What does India mean to you?
A good neighbor, a democratic country, a country which is helpful to Bangladesh, and I feel the new generation of India and Bangladesh will move together in the same spirit of 71 and make our both countries prosperous. Legacy of 71 should not be lost.
Col Sajjad, thank you very much for this very moving interview, and thank you very much for telling us this incredible story of how you, in August 1971, as a 20-year-old lieutenant in Pakistan's elite 14th Para-Brigade, crossed the border carrying critical battle information, some of it hidden in your shoes, some memorized, which played for the Indian Army a critical role in giving them an advantage when the war began a few months later. Welcome to India, and thank you for this interview.
Thank you very much, sir, for your incredible words of appreciation.
Thank you, sir.